happened? Where am I? Am I alive yet?
Everybody survived the fog? Yeah? Everybody make it through the fog that turned people inside out like this episode? Or, invasion behind the fog? Everybody survived? We're good? Hands out there. Fantastic. It's great that we live in a world where you can just make up anything and people will believe it now. I mean, well, technically it's always been part of the human experiment, but it's getting pretty wild out there now. How's it going today? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Back at this again. Keeping up with my thoughts, keeping up with fun. We finally had the Georgia Notre Dame football game after the attack, as they call it, in New Orleans, which, I mean, I guess you could call it an attack. It was more just straight up vehicular homicide. But anyways, they played the game, and Notre Dame made Georgia look horrible. And then, of course, Georgia fans went on the defensive, saying it was their third string or backup quarterback, which last year when Florida State lost their starting quarterback, that was good enough to keep them out of the playoffs. But Georgia's excuse for not winning this game was because they had a backup quarterback, so suck it, Georgia. Probably shouldn't be saying that. I have a lot of family in Athens that love Georgia, but hey, man, your fans were especially the last couple of years, kind of off the reservation there, Chief. See what I did there? So anyways, we now are into the semifinals, Final Four, whatever you want to call it, the Final Football Four. You got Texas versus Ohio State and Notre Dame versus Penn State. A lot of teams with history there, but at the same time, I mean, when did Notre Dame last win a championship? Was it 86, 88? Penn State? Whew. Honestly, I can't remember the last time Penn State. Maybe in the 80s, if not that. Maybe further back. Ohio State won back in 14. Texas was back in, what was that, 05? I honestly think Ohio State will take Texas. I think Notre Dame will handle Penn State, and I think you'll have a Ohio State-Notre Dame championship. And I think Ohio State will win. I think Ohio State's the better-looking team right now. I think they are in a decent groove, and I know a lot of people aren't big on their quarterback, but I mean, he handled business against Oregon. I mean, I know that was kind of a revenge game, but he could have gone out there and laid an egg, and he didn't. My man handled business, so good for him. So, yeah, I think we will have an Ohio State Notre Dame. I know that would probably be one of the lower-rated bowl games. It'll just be people from the north, basically, north and northeast, and maybe a little bit of the Midwest watching. I don't think anybody in the south or out west will honestly care, as sad as that sounds, especially in SEC country, where they believe they're superior above everybody. I can tell you right now that's not true. The SEC is a great conference, but let me not great. It's a good conference, but it's not superior than anybody. I remember having an argument with, God, when I was working at a store, some 20 years ago. I might have said this in the last time, but this dude just came in talking about how just superior and great the SEC was. This is back in like 05. And I was tired of hearing that. And he just happened to catch me on that day. And I was like, dude, man, the SEC is one or two teams every year, and the rest of the conference is mid. The rest of the conference is as good as any other conference out there. It is mid. And normally it's one or two teams that are the flag bearers for the SEC. It's Florida for a little bit. Then all of this, LSU shows up once or twice. Then Alabama would show up. And then Alabama went on their big run, and then LSU decides to pop back up. And then Georgia, Auburn from time to time will show up in a championship game and do nothing. But it's not like they were. It's like two-team heavy every year, and it's either Alabama, Georgia, or LSU, Georgia, or LSU, Florida, or Auburn, Florida. You can pick one or two teams in each division, and both those teams are good, and everybody else is mid-tier. And it's been that way forever in the SEC, and yet they preach as if that conference is like the mini NFL. It is not the mini NFL. I mean, you guys were paying players before it became legal. So there was that, and I think you're now seeing with the way these SEC teams are playing against other teams that it's leveled the playing field as far as that, because now other conferences can pay and get these big-time players to come there instead of the SEC, and it's evening out the process. You're not seeing SEC teams dominate mid-sub-tier teams anymore. They're actually in fights and losing to teams. I mean, Christ, look at Vanderbilt, what they did to Alabama this past year. But so anyways, glad that I'm glad that was the outcome of that game. I mean, I'm not a big Georgia fan. I'm not really against him, but whatever. So Ohio State, Notre Dame, with Ohio State win, I think that's where it's going to go. You can say what you want to say about the playoff system this year as far as if it was good or bad, but this is the future of it, man. It's like NCAA basketball. Not every year you're going to have the number one seed or the top seed win through. I mean, that gets less and less when you have to run a gauntlet of more teams. So be interesting to see what they tweak next year, how they tweak the picking of the teams, and after this year, what they view as a reason to pick teams and not to pick teams, because a lot of it had to do with schedule, a lot had to do with wins. You had people complaining that Alabama and South Carolina and Ole Miss still should have been in there because they play a tougher schedule because they're in the SEC, which was a complete bonkers. Looking at you, Lane. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. On the other side of things, I'm not that big of a Superman guy. I'll say that right away. Like Superman, me growing up, I always found Superman to be too much of a Boy Scout for me. Let me put my time frame in there. So I was, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s mainly, and DC in the 90s was child play, dude. Like, it was straight childish, man. I mean, Marvel had figured it out from their trading cards. You had the X-Men cartoon. You then had the Spider-Man cartoon. It was just so much better than what DC was doing at the time. I remember getting DC cards, I think like in 91 or 92. And I only knew maybe two or three of the people in those cards. I won't say two or three. Let's say about maybe 5 or 6. So you knew Wonder Woman, you knew Superman, you knew Batman, Green Lantern, of course. You knew those main ones, but when it went past that, I didn't know. I remember one dude being called Animal Man, and it was like him in like a cheetah outfit, like with a bunch of animals around him, which I guess his power was he could control animals. Like, was that Beastmaster? The old Beastmaster? And it just, I don't know, dude. Superman was too much of a Boy Scout for me. Batman was always my favorite DC character. You had the movies, of course, Michael Keaton in 89, and then again in 92, which I'll tell you the truth, I forgot that it came out in 92. I always felt like it was earlier than that. And I remember getting the cups from McDonald's, and it still just felt earlier than that. And then destroying all those cups, which sucks. Those were cool cups. But anyways, so Marvel's kind of handled it. Their movies have been a little better, of course, in the past, 5 years or so. It's been questionable. They've made some, I mean, they're speaking of like characters you don't know, Marvel went to try to set up characters that you just never really paid attention to or heard of. and tried to make movies out of it. And they just didn't do well for whatever reason. Probably because people didn't know who the hell they were. I don't know, man. It's like I watched the trailer for that Superman movie, and obviously my man got tore up. He's laid out. Cuts to Clark, which Clark, he looks. I mean, even though he looks like he's 7 feet tall, he's playing Clark pretty cool. Just gullible, but spitting blood here because somebody punched him in a dunk. Lois Lane. I mean, kind of looks like the Lois Lane from the original 78 movie, but okay. Guardians of the Galaxy, his dad looking like a homicidal maniac. It's a bad take on that. Look at my man's head. Oof. I can't talk. My head might be like that, honest to God. Anyways. The thing that got me was, again, so I'm not a DC hater. I would it would be great if some of these movies came out and did great, I just don't think that Superman works in this era anymore. It's like what was that movie? The one, Man of Steel. I went to theaters and I saw that one. I was like, all right, I'm not a Superman guy, but I'm gonna go check that one out. And I actually quite enjoyed it. I liked the Snyder's take on it. I didn't like the way the movie ended. I honestly thought that could have been handled so much better. I mean, he destroyed half of friggin' Metropolis, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, whatever. It's like I think they could have ended somewhere where, like, he knocks a building down to set up the Batman versus Superman, make that one be the one that Bruce Wayne owned, and then have Superman realize, holy crap, I can't be fighting in the city. We're gonna just mess things up and take my dude out to space, and then get punched down like into a desert somewhere, and just kill the dude in the desert or something in some little rinky-dink town. But I mean, they made Metropolis look like it had been just like been through a friggin' war. I mean, that would have taken years to build. I mean, you're talking about 10 years to build all that back up, man. So that just kind of that threw me off. Otherwise, I didn't mind that first Superman movie, but the ending was just, and then it just went to hell after that. Batman vs Superman was horrible. Justice League was just even worse, and it was just a waste of time. But it's like, yeah, I don't, and I could be wrong, but I don't think Superman works. It's going to work with the hardcore fans. It's going to work with the comic book fans, and I get that. But like people that are outside of that world that don't read comics, that just want to see a good movie, I don't think Superman's going to do it for him anymore. And this here, like, I knew he kind of had a dog back in the day, but I never really paid attention to it. And I mean, James Gunn, he loves animals. He always does, like weird stuff in his movie with animals, which is fine, but whatever. I mean, that doesn't bother me, but at the same time, I don't quite understand why you need the dog in it. You got the Hitman. Got the Hitman. And this is the only other thing that gets me here is, okay, he's fighting the kaiju, of course. I know people are saying, like, this is the comic accurate look for that particular character, which I respect. That's cool. I get it. But again, I didn't know who this character was. You consider me like a moderate individual. Like, I didn't know who this character was. I knew he was a Lantern, but I didn't know who he was. And the first glimpse I get of him is looking like the haircut I had when I was a kid in the 90s when I had the friggin' bowl cut. It's like, what the hell, bro? And it's like, that can't be I can't be the only one who doesn't know anything about the Green Lantern lineage of this character and didn't sit there going, what kind of wig or what was that, dude? And it's like James Gunn is accurate with the comics, so I'll give that to him. Hey, with the way movies were handled back in the days with comics, where they just would do whatever they. I mean, look what Sony did with all the Spider-Man stuff. Still just doing it how they wanted and screwed that whole universe up. So I respect James for going for that, but at the same time, I mean, that threw me off because I was like, whoa. Maybe he's one of you know how James Gunn is. Maybe this is one of the characters he kills off because he always has like a huge group of characters and like kills like 5 of them off for no reason. I don't know what that eye floating thing is back there. I mean that you know doing a thing. There's a few other characters that I don't really know, but I mean they look fine. They look good. I mean, would I go see that movie? I can't say. I can't say no. I can't say yes. It's just a teaser trailer. It's giving you a microcosm of what this movie is about, and I love when this happens, dude. Because, man, back when I was a kid, again through the '90s, and hell, even through like the early 2000s in my 20s, trailers weren't like this, man. I mean, you didn't sit around and wait for it to come out. The only time you saw a trailer for a movie was if you went to go see another movie in a theater and it was in the coming attractions, or if it was like the Super Bowl and you'd have a studio buy up time and they'd give you a little teaser for the. It's like one Super Bowl I remember giving a teaser was for Independence Day. And the only thing they teased was the spaceship above the White House. This was a Super Bowl back, so this was 96. They teased 96, no, 97, because 96 was Men in Black. So yeah, it would have been 97. So they teased like the giant UFO above the White House, and I think it was something like, for thousands of years we thought we were alone in the universe or whatever, and then it blows up the White House. And that's all you got. And man, I just remember the next day in high school, I think I was a sophomore, everybody was talking about that. And it was only maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds, that's all you got. And it was, oh man, we can't wait for that. And I'll be honest, I don't remember seeing any trailer for that after that. I just remember going to the movie on July 4th and watching it. And these days, man, Jesus, you have to have the teaser trailer. Oh, and then a couple months later, you have the full trailer. And then a couple weeks after that, you have another trailer. Oh, and then like a week before the movie comes out, you start dumping these 25-second or 30-second trailers on TV, and it's too much, bro. It's just pull back, Hollywood, pull back. Don't give us so much. It's what did Dave Chappelle say? When it's like when women were giving it up too easy, they flooded the market. And it's just too easy to get it, and it's just not worth it anymore. Hollywood, you're flooding the market with these teasers and these trailers, and it overdoes it. And then the movie comes out, and it's like people set up their own standard of what they think it should be, or how it should be, or how it should. Then, of course, you have everybody on YouTube that gives their hour breakdown or hour explanation as to why this movie is going to be good or not, or why this trailer sucks or why it's good. I'll be honest with you. Make up your own damn mind on those things. If you think it's good, go see the movie. If you don't, it's just whatever. You don't think it's good. I mean, to me, this is a teaser trailer. I'm 50-50 on it. I need to see more. I'm not going to say it's a good trailer or a bad trailer. I need to see more. That did not give me anything besides a guy in a goofy bowl cut. That's the only thing that threw me off, was a goofy bowl cut. But God, I remember it was after the most recent Star Wars trilogy. You had now I'm forgetting the name of that one, but you had that first one come out in 2015. And I didn't think it was that bad. And I remember people hated it. Now, I do think they copped out with making the planet a giant Death Star. I think that was a bit of a cop-out. They could have done better. But overall, I wasn't upset with it. I wasn't too upset with it. And they had set up, J.J. Abrams had set up so much in that movie. He had set up We're trying to figure out who's Rey's parents. We're trying to figure out why the Solo kid went to the dark side. We're trying to figure out why Luke went into hiding. We're trying to figure out who Snoke is. We're trying to set up all these great stories just to have that next director come in and just crap it out. And I remember me and my buddies were caught up into that. It's like, oh man, it's like, Rey's parents it's got to be Luke, or she's got to be, a granddaughter of Obi-Wan, or there's got to be just some lineage there. Snoke, man, yeah, he's from the out depths of the space, came in, handled it all, and Luke, hey man, maybe Luke is her father and had figured out that Snoke was coming to look for him, and so he had to go hide somewhere so that Snoke wouldn't get to him and find out that Rey's his daughter, and so on, because he had already got to Solo. Set up all this stuff, and then we went and saw The Rise of Skywalker and left out going, what the frick was that? That director just basically crapped on the entire storyline, which, hey man, I get it. If you want to make your own movie if you have your own version of what you want to do, then make your own trilogy of it. Don't come in the middle, be the second part of that movie where one movie set up all these storylines, and you just go, screw it, I'm going to do my own thing. Rey, your parents, they're nobody, they're garbage, they're trash. Snoke, hey, watch this, slice him up in half for no damn reason. Luke, screw it, lightsaber, I'm just going to go drink some more tit milk and blah, blah, blah. I hate this light side, it's not worth it, blah, blah. Then you make him want to kill his nephew because you sense evil in him, yet you sensed evil in your father and you tried to save him. That made complete sense. So anyways, there was just so much that was just completely screwed up in that movie, and it just goes into what I was saying, where people, I think, with these trailers and these YouTube pages just go into their own mind and start creating their own storyline of how movies should be and how they shouldn't be, how they should. And it's gotten to the point now where I used to be a trailer guy. I'd sit there and I'd watch these trailers come out. I loved watching them. And now it's like I don't go for them anymore because I just realized I was overselling myself. I was getting so hyped up for these trailers. And most of them, the movie was still good. I'm not going to lie. Most of them, the movies were still good. But there had been a few where it was just, you overhype yourself for the trailer, and then you go see the movie, and it just, from what you expected, you expected more for it, and you only have yourself to blame for that on some level. So I try not to go to these trailers anymore. I try not to go to these YouTube pages where they break down everything front and back and whatnot. I'll watch one to see if, like, okay, I could see that, or no, I could not see that. But in this case, like I said, with this one, I would need to see the first trailer of the Superman movie to make a determination if I would go and see it or not. Because that one right there, it's giving you nothing. It's just giving the geeks and nerds, a little rim job, basically, little edging, just to make them, get excited. There's really nothing there. But yeah, the dude with the bowl cut, man. You can't bust that out in the first one where people don't know anything about that character, and you get my dude pop out there in a mop top. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, don't hate on the movie just because you hate DC. Don't go and run these stupid, you hate James Gunn or you hate Superman or whatever. Man, hey, if you don't like it, whatever. That's cool. That's fine. That's your thing. Also, if you super duper like it, understand that there's people out there that just don't care, or they don't like it because you have the DC Marvel crap, or you have the people that just don't like Gunn, or you have the people that just don't like they switched out from Cavill and went to this guy. Hey, if somebody don't like it, who cares? It's your fun. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. If you don't like it, again, who cares? Keep that crap to yourself, man. No one cares what you hate. No one cares what you hate. But this whole thing with DC and Marvel again. When I was a kid, bro, I can't keep saying. I don't need to keep saying, bro. Let me get it all out, bro. So when I was a kid, I think it was '92. I think it was in fifth grade, and these kids had brought in some Marvel trading cards, and they were showing them. And I was like, whoa, what are these? Because I had known about, again, Superman and Batman, because those are just the regular ones you always hear about, Flash and everything. And for the Marvel side, the only ones I had ever really known of were Spider-Man, Captain America, and the X-Men, because those were like mainstream. Besides, I didn't know too much else. And I remember like these cards, these kids telling me like, you gotta check these cards, which I have them. I should have brought them over here because I show them off. I still have some cards from 1992 that I collected. And I remember like telling my dad, like, we got to go to the store and find some of these. They were sold, I think, for maybe $1 at the time. You get a pack like 25, maybe something like that. And me and my brothers were lost every time we went to Winn-Dixie, which, if you're not from the South, you know what Winn-Dixie is. It was a grocery store at the time. We would pick up a pack of those cards and go to school the next day and show them off. And then I remember DC being out there, and we bought a few packs of DC, and it was just DC didn't have the same vibe. I thought their cards, I'm not gonna lie, some of their cards were a lot cooler. Like the illustrations were a lot better than what Marvel had. But Marvel was just more dynamic. Marvel, you also had like the holographic cards, hologram cards. Marvel had more characters that I recognized or that I wanted to get to know. Where DC, once I got past the first, main characters, I didn't care to learn about the secondary characters. They didn't appeal to me. I don't know why. They just didn't. I mean, and you can be upset for me, and, it's whatever, but they just, like, the Marvel characters, they just more appealed to me than that. And so that's where I started. Then I would go into the comics, and again, it was more Marvel comics than it was DC. I think the only time that I got DC comics was my grandparents. They would buy just comics. They'd find just random ones, or they'd ask like the store clerk, like, what's the best one to buy, and that's when we'd get them. The only two DC comics I remember actually owning was, and I actually still have this one, where Batman is having his back broke and over Bane's leg, and Bane's holding him down. And I actually had the Death of Superman. I had that one, but it got destroyed. I wish that wouldn't have happened, because that was a good one. Because I remember what the hype for that coming out, and I had to go buy that. But besides that, I mean, it's just Marvel comics. It's where we were. X-Men, Spider-Man, Wolverine. That's what we got lost in on, and that had to do a lot with, again, the trading cards, but then the X-Men cartoon coming out on Fox in '92, and then the Spider-Man cartoon in '94. I mean, that solidified it for most kids my age, most kids of the '90s. DC just got, pushed away, just gone, man. I mean, and you can't hate people during that time period for that. That's just, Marvel made some genius moves. It might have been out of desperation to save their comic book line, but I mean, it did more for them in the long run. I mean, look at their universe now. Their universe is almost, 20 years old. We're coming up almost 20 years old, and DC basically ended theirs a couple years ago because they just could not figure it out. And I know people love Zack Snyder, and I get he has a way of directing, and it's a dark, gritty way. That's fine. It did not work with DC. Like, it was too gritty and it was too dark, and you just didn't have the continuity, and you just didn't have people outside of being DC fans that cared. Again, it's like, the only DC movie I saw in theaters during that time period was that first Superman movie. And it was because my friend really wanted to see it, and I was like, right, yeah, let's go. Besides that, I didn't see any of those DC movies until either they were just randomly on television, or, basically just when they came on television, because it just didn't appeal to me. And I remember when Aquaman came out, and just how that movie was even. It's like my man showed up in Justice League, saves the world in Justice League, has his own movie, and yet there's no references to like people acknowledging. Well, let me back that up. There was people that I'm just now remembering. There were people that recognized him and were taking pictures with. But you had the undersea world Atlantis that knows what's going on above water, on land, the land world, whatever they want to call it, and yet they have no knowledge of him for some reason, even though he just saved the planet. And they have no knowledge of the Justice League or Superman, even though, again, they just saved the planet. So you have an advanced civilization shooting lasers, making underwater worlds, and yet they somehow don't have a television or a way. They have knowledge of the upper world, but yet what are they, too stuck up to realize the world is almost ending? Even though they fought with everybody to fight to keep. I mean, again, and that was the other thing too, man. I mean, here was the continuity. You had the dude show up and take one of the Allspark boxes from Atlantis. They took it, and my man Aquaman comes down there and tries to fight him. So you have this relic down there. My man comes down there and tries to fight the dude. Doesn't happen. But yet in the Aquaman movie, you act like nobody knew he existed, even though you just had this creature from space come down and steal the freaking box from your realm. And that was just. I mean, that's where you lost it, man. It's like there was no continuity. The other thing was it's like they were trying to be too different from Marvel. Except Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, I actually enjoyed that movie because the first Wonder Woman was almost a Marvel movie. The way they did it, it was Marvel-esque, and that's why it worked, because it was almost a Marvel movie. All the others, man, it just, like, Aquaman just bounced around back and forth, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. Batman vs Superman was rushed, and not Juggernaut, Judgment Day, Doomsday, whatever the heck his name was, shouldn't have been in that. I mean, you could have done so much more with that movie than what you did. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, you could have had at the end of the first Superman, when like your after credit scene, could have set up Dark Shield. I think I'm saying his name right. You can correct me. Call me an idiot. Go for it. You could have had that set up in the after, and who cares if it didn't match with the comics, but you could have had it set up where when Superman set off that beacon that brought the others to him, Lord Zod and them to him, that it could have set off the beacon for Dark Shield too. And then have Doomsday as like one of his, I don't know, not servants, but one of his people, and go, I'm sending you to Earth. Need you to take care of this dude because I need him out of the way before I run the planet. And then you could have the Batman and Superman have their fight at the beginning of the movie for that first hour, and then you have Doomsday show up. And now it's, oh crap, we have to work together because this guy is a tank. And then you have basically Superman and Doomsday have them kill each other off. I'm perfectly fine with that too. Or you have him beat him into a life of himself, and have them both agree that we need to set up some sort of league because this dude came from space, so there's going to be others, like Tony Stark realizing that others are going to come. And then you have the Justice League, where you set it up with them getting Wonder Woman, with them getting Aquaman, and you could even have the Martian dude. You could have had that be the big, like, part of that movie, thinking that, oh, they're already coming, but then you find out he's like when they had that cartoon with it where he's going to be working with them, and you have that set up, and then you could set up the movie with Dark Shield, and or make that Justice League movie where that dude comes down and gets the Allsparks. I don't care, whatever way you want to do it. But there was so many better ways that they could have done what they did, but it just felt like they were rushing to catch up with Marvel, and they should have just taken their time. And then of course The Rock came in and Black Adam'd everything. It's what everybody says, right? It was The Rock's fault. That man gets blamed for so much. I mean, God, remember when he first started to come into Hollywood? He was coming as the next action star, and it was all right. It was whatever. You know, Schwarzenegger did the little tip cap to him in the rundown or whatever, and it ran its course, and people were just over it. And then he tried, he had to go back to wrestling. Then he slimmed down, came to Slim Rock, tried to come back, and had that run of just horrible movies in that time period. Then he went back to wrestling. Then he went back into the movies, and he started doing more of the action stuff and got beefed up. And look, man, I think he's a good dude. I mean, I think he's a bit of a diva. I'm not gonna lie. I think he's a bit of a diva. But I think his intentions are well. But his movies just don't do it for me, man. I mean, I know people that get excited for it. I know people that love him, and people that, well, just, I don't want to say slob on him, but just, say he's just the greatest thing in the world. But he's not a great actor. I mean, the greatest acting I saw him do was in Pain and Gain, that movie with him and Wahlberg. And I thought he was great in that movie. I think that was his best acting, if that tells you anything. But besides that, I mean, he plays the same character in every movie. It's the same character. And you can say what you want, that's how they are in those movies, like action movies. That's fine, because Arnold was kind of like that in most of his movies. Stallone, the same way. But at least with Stallone and especially Schwarzenegger, they would take chances with things, and they might step out of the particular, like Schwarzenegger did Twins, and he also did The Last Action Hero, which basically was making fun of all his movies. Jingle All the Way, he did all these kind of just weird, off the wall. You had Stallone doing Judge Dredd and Demolition Man, that were still action movies, but they were so far fetched. It just was different than from those normal stuff he was doing. And then of course the mountain climbing movie, which I can't think of right now, but I mean they stepped out of their element a little bit. It's like The Rock just does movies where he walks around, wears tight little shirts, punches people, gives a little stare, gets beat up, shows back up, wins the day. It's just fine. I mean, if you want one of those popcorn movies like that, that's fine. But after a while, it just runs its course, And I know he's like doing a more serious movie now, which will be interesting to see how that goes. I think it's about a bodybuilder or a boxer or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's supposed to be a more serious movie. So we'll see what he can do with that. But there's a lot of people saying like this is really his last swing at, I guess, being a top-notch star, because I mean he'll always be an action star. He'll always be able to pull that. But who knows? He might have to go back to wrestling again, like what he did last year, because that'll always be there for him. But if I was him, man, I would produce more and maybe learn how to direct or find something. I mean, the guy's got a tequila company. He's got all sorts of stuff out there. It is what it is. So, not to just crazily change the subject here, but I saw this thing on, it was on Twitter, which again, do not spend more than like 30 minutes on Twitter a day. Otherwise, you're just brain rotting yourself. But it showed up on my feed, and it was showing the differences between what girls in the West wear, and I think most of these women that they were showing were, I think it was in England, maybe London, and what like women in the Mid East wear. Which again is going to be completely drastic. I mean, because you just have different laws. But it was showing like the women in London wearing really skimpy stuff, but it was also you had people in costumes, and it was Halloween, which I thought Halloween was more of an American holiday, but everything gets globalized, and so you just need a reason to party half the time. So maybe England and London have picked that up a bit, but like they're showing clips of all these women just walking to bars or the clubs, and a majority of them are wearing. It's obvious. It's Halloween. They're wearing Halloween stuff, and it was skimpy stuff, but it's Halloween. And then they're showing like what they wear in the Mid East or whatever, and it was more professional and it was more tied up, and it's like da, da, da. And I get what they were trying to say. They're trying to like talk about how women in Western culture, I guess, are more, I don't want to say flamboyant, but are more risque with what they wear than what they do in maybe the Mideast. But if you're going to do that, you can't show people during Halloween. Of course, you're going to have skimpy stuff like that. People are going to wear nurse costumes and cop costumes and devil costumes, all this stuff that are skimpy like that, because that's what Halloween's turned into, man. It's turned into a giant, basically eyes wide shut celebration. I mean, so you can't just show Halloween night and then go, oh my god. But look, man, I can't say what women are wearing out there now, and quite frankly, I don't care what you wear. You can wear the skimpiest thing, or you can wrap yourself in mummy paper and not show anything. It's whatever makes you feel comfortable. You wear what you want. But I will say, like, if you go out there with your ass hanging out or showing a lot of cleavage, hey, dudes are animals, dude. I mean, you. So I haven't been out to a club probably since 2019. Most of my friends got married, got girlfriends or whatever. So I don't have a lot of single friends that just go out anymore. So I just haven't been out. So I don't know what people are wearing now. It's probably about the same thing that they were wearing out 6-7 years ago. But I never really looked at girls went, oh man, I can't believe they're wearing that, because I just didn't see it that often. You might see it one or two times and you're like, that's I mean, hey, more power to you, but be careful. Because man, we used to see this. Me and my friends, we were regulars out at this bar here in town. We're out there, we'd spend our Fridays and Saturdays out there, to the point that the staff, bartenders, and the bouncers knew us. I mean, like, we wouldn't have problems out there. We'd always get our drinks at a good clip because they'd recognize us. So we would notice, like, you would see other regulars that would come out there. And there was this one dude that would come out there, and he was 6'6", maybe, probably pushing 340, something like that, big dude, but he carried his weight well. He wasn't like super fat, like he carried his weight well. And he was one of these guys that, and I'm telling you, ladies, you gotta be careful about. There's guys that they won't show up out to bars or clubs until like 12:30, maybe even 1 o'clock, because they know that there's will be girls and women that have been drinking all day or the entire time and are slashed or slushed or just out there, and they're there to take advantage of it. And this dude was a predator. He would get out there on the dance floor and he'd stand there, and you just see him looking around, and he was surveying, trying to find the drunk girl, trying to find the one that was going to be easy to take advantage of. And I mean, fortunately, most of the time he was not successful. He would try to bump up us on girls, and girls would turn, no, that wasn't their, they'd get away, or their friends would come and save them. But there was one or two times where, I mean, the girl was wasted, turn around, that dude's there, and it was for her, and it was whatever. And I don't recall if like he ever left with them, but he definitely had hands all on him at the time. And it's just one of those things. I mean, hey, like my man Chappelle said, if you're gonna wear the whore of a uniform, expect guys to treat you like that, because they're not gonna know any different. And you have dudes out there that are very predatorial, and they'll take advantage of that. I mean, that ain't me. I'm kind of bashful on that low. I mean, I have my fun out at bars. I had my times out at the bars and clubs, on the dance floors, making out, getting numbers, hooking up, doing whatever. But I wasn't one that sat there. I mean, personally, to me, drunk people annoy the crap out of me, unless I'm drunk too. And like overly drunk women irritate the crap out of me, to where I don't even want to have a conversation with you. Even if you're hitting on me, even if you're telling me that you're going to take me home, it's like, that's great. You know what? Bye. I can't do it, man. Like overly drunk people and overly drunk women in general just drive me nuts. It's just it's one of my things, man. It's just like, some people's chalkboard for me is overly drunk women that irritate me. So I just gotta go. I can't do it. But ladies, wear what you want. I'm not telling you not to wear what you want, but also be fully aware, man, that there's just dudes out there that they have it down to a T. They're not out there to get drunk. They're not out there to have a good time. They're out there to take advantage of a situation. And hopefully you have good friends that are paying attention to you and not allowing you to have that happen, because I have seen it one too many times, man. Hey, protect yourselves out there. Have fun, but protect yourselves. And let's not give women too much shit and shame them for what they're wearing out at bars. Again, man, everybody's young. Everybody wears things when they're younger that they look back 5, 10, 15 years going, what the hell was I thinking? It's just, it's a maturity thing. It's whatever. But I mean, hey, you gotta live and learn. I mean, that's just how life is, right? This is how life is, right? But at the same, I don't understand. This is the only other thing too. Again, and I haven't, like I said, haven't been at a restaurant or a bar for a while, or not a restaurant, or a club or a bar for a while. But it's like, where I work, this younger generation, the ones that are in their 20s now, I honest to God don't know how y'all socialize without having a phone in your hand. And I mean it by this. I mean it by, when I come into work, I come in, I clock in, check my emails, check with my supervisor, make sure, everything's good. Then I sit down and I start working. I go into doing my day. These 20-somethings, they come in, man, and it's almost like, and I know all you 20-somethings aren't like this, but majority of you are. It's like, well, now that I'm here, what can I do besides doing work? And you will have them, like, they have those things on their desk that prop the phones up, and they put their phones right in front of them, and they sit there and they just watch videos all day. Or they, like, this one girl will have, like, will be FaceTiming her friend all day, like, have it, like, is that, do you honestly need to have FaceTime your friend all day while you're at work instead of working? Do you honestly need to have your phone sitting there on in front of you instead of working? Or some people do it while they're working. I don't understand this. Now, before you give me hell, I'll have YouTube up on my computer. I'm not going to lie, or I'm not going to shame on that. But I'll have it on there, and I'll have music, or maybe I'll have like some live show, or maybe there'll be like some sort of documentary, something going on, and it'll play through my headphones, and I have that for like background noise to block out maybe things that are going around, and I focus in on work. I don't sit there and just watch it for 2 or 3 hours and then go, oh, I need to get back to work. So I honestly want to know, how do you 20-something socialize? Are you guys in the bars and in the clubs now just sitting on your phone, even though there's people around you to talk and hang out with, and you just on your phone the whole time? selfie taking, recording, not actually having conversation. Is that what it is? Is that what it's become in the last 5 years? Because when I was out there, again, last time I was out was 2019. So phones, I mean, phones really became a thing in the last like 10 or some odd years. Because I remember being out with the freaking cameras, the digital cameras. I remember that when that was, everybody was taking pictures and doing that thing. But it wasn't as encompassing as I think like these phones are. And when we were out at the bars, still not at the clubs, my friends, you'd have some people that would have their phone out taking pictures or recording from time to time. But for the most part, people were there to have fun. They were there having conversations. But I honestly, is it where people are just out there with their phones out the whole time? That like, if you want to talk to me, here's my number, text me, do this, and instead of just having a conversation, I need to go out to a club or a bar. I probably think it's less at a bar, but I need to go to a club and see if there's people that are actually out there communicating, or if they're just all standing around looking at their phones, because that's what they do at work, man. They just come in and just sit on their phones all day, and I don't get. It's addictive, man. It's addictive. You guys got to put your phones down. There's more out there than sitting on your damn phone all day. You can actually be productive at work. Actually have a conversation with people. So please, God, put these phones down. The future of our species is going to evolve into just having a friggin' phone grown on their hand or grown right in their face. What was that? Was it Futurama who had it where you'd put it in your eye or put it in your brain, and like Twitter would come out and record. That's where we're headed, man. I know they got the glasses that can do that, but those are so expensive. People don't. I mean, I wouldn't wear them out because if they break, you're SOL. But that's what it's gonna be. You're gonna have like one of these companies come up with like a contact lens that you can put on your eye that is also Wi-Fi linked to where you can record and you can see. That'll be wild. I mean, that's where we're headed. But put your phones down and work. Put your phones down and socialize. The phone is not your life. I mean, it's great to want to be on the top end of the trends. I get that. Kind of. I never was a trendy guy. I never gave it, that much of a thought about it. But I get where people are about it. But yeah, let's put their phones down for a little bit. Oh, look at that. Hour ranting. Hour going at it. All right. Went without the light tonight. We'll see how this goes. I did paint that. If anybody's wondering about that, I did paint that. But we'll call it on that. I'll come up with some other things to complain about or to bitch about in the future, I guess, for the next one. If you have anything that you want to talk about, or if you have anything that you want to yell at me about, put in the comments. Go nuts. Maybe I'll look at it. Maybe we'll see what's going on with that. But until then, hey, everybody, take care of yourself and your family. Have a good day.